Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. Yeah, we're in the 5th year, folks, and I'm pleased to have an alumni, John Musgrave. John hails from Central Illinois, and he's the owner, founder, chief bottle washer, and main camp cook at Standalone Outdoors. John, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you.
Water's gone over the dam since we last talked. And I just want to find out what the heck's going on with John Musgrave. I mean, it must have been a couple of years back.
Yeah, it has been.
So what's going on in your life? And let's just start off and tell people about Standalone Outdoors.
Well, about 3.5 years ago, I was with 4 years ago, I was with Game Seekers Outdoors. And that was when a couple years prior to that, I'd done the podcast with you before. And we decided to part ways there on Game Seekers. And I got to thinking, I love doing this so much. I really don't want to step away from it. So I went ahead and started my own Standalone Outdoors. And there's really not much history behind it as far as how I chose the name. I was sitting there listening to music and heard a song called Standalone. And I was like, perfect name. So that's pretty much how that was founded. And then just kind of developed from there, got in contact with some of the sponsors that I had been in contact with Game Seekers, and got a hold of them and talked with them briefly about, bringing them on as a sponsor with me. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Brought another guy on with me, one of my good buddies, CJ Wilson, and he is the co-owner, by the way. He's a silent co-owner currently. We both got the videoing and stuff, and he said, John, it's taking all the fun out of my hunting. I don't want to do it. How about I just be a silent partner? So he's now the silent owner, and we still keep up to date with each other on that. In that first year, we had plenty of footage that we went ahead and after that first deer season with everybody, got hooked up with Gen 7 Outdoors. We ran 3 seasons there. Then it became that I'm guessing that the blue tongue and the lack of everybody with their jobs just wasn't getting the video footage of anything that we were wanting. So we kind of backed off. And that's where we're at now with it. We've backed off. We're on YouTube, and I have 2 other staff members currently who are videoing their hunts just starting out this year. So hopefully we'll have a lot of good action there on YouTube this year. And hopefully, as I bring on more staff members, we can get back to doing the Gen 7 and bringing everybody what they came to know when Standalone first started.
Want to become a smarter deer hunter? Know when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Well, Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created to do exactly that, because many people have told me they struggle with spending all days in the wood and never seeing a deer, only shooting does and young deer, leaving the woods empty-handed way too many times. Found this wonderful, but just couldn't get on them, having difficult finding a place to hunt, recognizing possible mistakes you're making every year, having tried and failed to find qualified mentors who deliver results. If you had these frustrations or struggles, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com, and there you'll find a 13-module course to help you solve these problems. Again, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com and find some answers. Who's the guy that runs Gen 7? I haven't talked to him in a while.
Jody Blackwelder runs that.
Yeah, there you go. Good man.
Yes, he is. Real good man. He's been, he was understanding. You know, when we first started, I can't remember the name of her. She's in with the Hunt channel. And she's the one that referred me to Jody and wanted me, Christy King, I think is her name.
Yep. Very nice lady. She's helped me in the industry. So she's a good influencer in the industry. That's for sure. So shout out for Christy King.
Yes. She turned me on to Jody, and we snowballed it from there and got things going. And then like I said, we ran that first year, was good. Second year was mediocre. And then the third year, there was just nothing there, so we dropped out, unfortunately. It sucked. But, he was understanding. He understood, the reason why we dropped out, and he's a great guy to deal with. So, like I said, hopefully in the next few years, we can get back to it.
Well, that's good. Now, if somebody wants to reach out to you on social media, where do they go?
They can reach us on Facebook, or they can reach us on our Instagram, Standalone Outdoors.
All right. So, let's talk about, you mentioned something about blue tongue or EHD. How has that impacted Illinois?
Oh, my goodness. In my opinion, in my area, it has impacted it real big. I was going from seeing, I'd go trail cameras once a year or once a month during the off season. So I run 5 cameras, and normally before I'm thinking that it hit, I was getting probably 250 to 300 pictures a month out of each camera. And then it slowly seemed like it's taken effect, and I'm in a month time, I'm seeing maybe 100 pictures out of each camera of deer. And I pulled cards yesterday morning, matter of fact. And when I did, I seen several deer that were real skinny, and they just looked awful. I don't know if it's the case or if just the lack of nutrition around or what, but I've also talked to other hunters around me, and that, I had a conversation with my fire chief last night. We got to talking about the blue tongue and the EHD, and he said the deer numbers are definitely down. He went out bow hunted yesterday. He said, normally, I see 5 or 6 deer every half hour. And he said, I didn't see a one. He found several dead deer on his property. And I've talked to other guys the same way. They found the deer laying in their property. And I've seen it on the social media too, as well,
Dang.
So it's been pretty bad. I mean, the deer are still around. There's still some good deer around, but they're few.
Now, how long does this run till the deer all die, or what transmitted, I believe, by a tick or a mosquito bite, right?
Yeah, I think the blue tongue, I believe, is from a mosquito bite.
Okay.
And then the EHD, I think you're right. I think that comes from a tick, I believe. And lack of water, too, has some to play in it. I know on the blue tongue, there's some sort of parasite in the water, I guess, can get in the water and hurt the deer.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were going to talk about this, or I would have done some research. So somebody, reach out to us, Whitetail Rendezvous or Standalone Outdoor, and do some posts. And yeah, I just came out of elk camp, so my brain isn't spun up on these diseases. CWD, I'm pretty up to speed on, but none on the others. So if somebody could help us out, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
And, after the show, I'll do some research too. So you got Standalone Outdoors, and what do you want that to become? What's your purpose?
I think it's just like every small outdoor industry owner, running the TV show. You dream of making it big and becoming, the big star like everybody else, and being able to quit your normal 9-to-5 job and hunt and fish and do all that for a living versus, working a normal 9-to-5 job. And that's my ultimate goal. It's slowly flourishing, it's getting there. It's just not quite there, and I realize it takes time. So, I'm patient with it. And I had a few other staff members that were along, and I don't think they weren't as patient with it. They kind of dropped away and said, we're done with this. But
yeah, it's hard. I mean, and I think the word that you said was patient. And, one, you have to have really good footage, and it's a crowded space and a YouTube channel. And, getting with Jody on Gen 7 definitely a plus. But you got to get the content year after year after year, and it takes a long time. I remember Bill Winke, he started off 15, 20 years ago, it seems, and he just sold out to Realtree. But I remember talking to him in his first year, there wasn't much there, and then he stayed after it and had a vision, had a dream, and then, the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, we have, I know I have, my other two guys, they've still got the mediocre camera gear, and they're, we're normal 9 to 5 working guys, and, so we're all on a budget. And, the camera equipment, of course, is, I'm sure and everyone else knows that is into this. It's, the good sound camera equipment that's going to get you good quality footage is not cheap. I upgraded my camera this year. I happened to get lucky, be on Facebook, found a nice Sony cam, and it's a normal, I think, $1,200-$1,300 camera, and I got it for about half of that price, So I have the camera and quite impressed with it. I had it out yesterday, did a little bit of video of the deer that I did see yesterday morning, and I'm super impressed with it, super impressed with the quality. I did my dad's wedding with it, and it came out awesome. My dad was super impressed with it as well. But, you got to have the camera equipment, and you got to have the whole 9 yards, the shotgun mic, the camera arm, the camera, a good fluid head. And, I've told these guys that are with me, that stuff's not cheap. I understand, that you guys are on a little tighter budget than I am, and I get that part, but just stick money back, and when you get the money, go ahead and update it. And it also goes along with, you got to have good quality video editing software as well,
Yep. Yeah, it's a big job, and people don't understand it. Hey, folks, I just jumped on Google and EHD in deer. EHD is a viral disease found in whitetail deer and some other ruminants. Unlike chronic wasting disease, EHD is spread by a biting midge, not by deer to deer. Deer to deer is CWD. Contact. The biting midge is a small flying insect associated with isolated water sources. So that's a background on it. And it seems Kentucky's getting hammered. Illinois is getting hammered. I saw a map just briefly, and I'm going, oh my goodness, throughout the whole Midwest, it's a serious thing. So, I guess I'd throw this out to everybody, listening to this. If your land does have EHD, think about what you are going to do and what you're not going to do, because the rut hasn't even started, and there's not going to be a heck of a lot of bucks for the rut this year. There's just not going to be there. It's a matter of, how are we going to manage it, management type of thing. And, so think about that. So let's go back. How long have you been hunting? Let's talk about your hunting tradition, John.
I've been hunting since I was 8. So 31 years I've been hunting.
Wow.
Started just as a little 8-year-old boy shooting a squirrel out of the tree, and with my dad as we went and checked trees, and it's flourished into this. And my dad's the one that got me into bow hunting, and it's just carried on. Bow hunting is my passion. I enjoy it. It's just something about the thrill of getting that whitetail in there at 20 yards and watching it as it all unfolds as he walks in, reading his body language as they walk in, But yeah, it's been 31 years, and I've killed quite a few animals, I believe.
Yeah. What's your favorite time of the year to hunt?
I would say it's got to be that late October to mid-November, right around that pre-rut and rut phase. I don't know what it is. It's just something magical about it. And I know there's a lot of other hunters out there that feel the same way,
To you, when does the pre-rut begin? I know up in Wisconsin, I know the dates of that, but what about Central Illinois?
It's a lot of times it kind of depends on the weather. Pre-rut probably around maybe the second week of October to the third week. It just kind of depends on the weather and the moon phase and all that. And sometimes I've not seen any rutting activity around here until late October, the last week of October. And, it's really booming about the second, third week of November. It just kind of takes its spurts, it seems like. One year it'll be, early October and you're starting to see some pre-rut activity. And then sometimes it's the later part, that you start seeing it. But I generally, on the piece of property that I hunt, generally I start seeing that pre-rut activity second, third week of October.
Now, are you solely a tree stand hunter, or are you spot and stalk or ground blind?
A little bit of ground blind and a whole lot of tree hunting. I've done the spot and stalk, not real crazy about it. I mean, I know there's other guys that do it. And if you got the ground, and if I spot and stalk, I like to do it on a real windy day, So then that way I've got plenty of noise coverage and crunchy leaves and all that. Then I can, it's nice and easy.
Do you want to become a smarter whitetail hunter, knowing when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Over the past 4 years, people have asked me, hey, I'm struggling with spending all day in the woods and never seeing a deer, only getting opportunities at doe or young bucks, leaving the woods empty-handed too many seasons. Located the deer of a lifetime, but just flat out missed. Having difficulties finding a place to hunt, recognizing mistakes that you're making over and over again, and you want to eliminate them. Having tried and failed to find qualified mentors. Well, you've come to the right place. Why? Because Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created by me, Bruce Hutchin. It's a 13-module course that'll talk about being lost in the deer hunting forest, never hunted. What is a hunter? What is an adult onset hunter? What rules apply? Finding a mentor, choosing a weapon, finding a place to hunt, scouting a hunt location, stand sites, stand access and exit, reading sign, and when to hunt. All these are available for you at deerhuntinginstitute.com. Go now to deerhuntinginstitute.com and sign up for the best deer hunting course in America.
Archery is your weapon of choice. What's the longest shot you've ever had on a whitetail?
I'm going to say, if we're talking about archery, 50 yards, he was walking. And that hunt specifically, it was an 11-point hunt. It's on YouTube.
What's your channel again?
Standalone Outdoors. He came in chasing a couple of does. And I thought at the time when it happened, I thought he was standing still. But after going back, re-looking at the footage, he was not standing still. He was walking. But he couldn't have been walking very fast, because where I put my pin is exactly where I hit. He was hard quartering away from me. And I slid up through the back ham, went up through the rib cage, and caught the heart of the lung. So with a shotgun, I do slug hunt during the Illinois slug season. We'll say probably 90 yards was probably about the farthest I've shot one.
And how far do you practice out with your bow?
I don't go past 50 yards. That's about the farthest. Once in a while, I'll step back to 60. I know where to put the pin. If, one stepped out, it was, and I was comfortable and had plenty of range to do it. But it's not something that I practice day in and day out, like I do the 30, 40, and 50s.
Yeah, I'm shooting a crossbow now, and even though it can shoot way past 50 yards, I can shoot 100 yards. Yeah. But I've got that dialed into 50 yards and in. That's where I leave it. I will go out to 60 yards on an elk, but as far as whitetails, 50 yards and in, if they're standing broadside in the field, I'll take the shot. If I'm in the woods, 30 yards is a long shot in the woods anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to paint a picture for everybody that's listening, what the private ground that I hunt, when I do take those longer shots, it is mainly pasture type. There's some trees in there where my stand sits. Nothing's real close together. if anybody's watched my videos, they'll see most of the time it's pasture based. I mean, I'm not inside the woods. I did just gain a piece of property that now I can be back to hunting the hardwoods. But there again, like you said, 30 yards inside the woods is a long shot.
Now, tell me about your setup, your bow, broadheads, and arrows.
Well, I shoot a Matthews Z7. It's an older bow, but it gets the job done, and I'm real happy with it. I was shooting a high country, and I wasn't very happy with it, so switched back to the Matthews. But got executioner broadheads on there, which are great. I've killed several deer with them. All of them have ran maybe a total of 70 yards total with them. And I mean, it varies. I mean, of course, the where you put that arrow is the key factor there. But these broadheads, 2.5 inch cutting diameter. So when you hit them, anything in 2.5 inches, if you got a good main vein running through there, you clip that heart or you clip that lung, it leaves one heck of a blood trail. I shoot a Black Eagle Outlaw arrow, 350s, and they're great. They withstand quite a bit. I killed 2 deer with 1 arrow last year. I shot a doe early season and used that same arrow, and then harvested a nice 9-pointer later in the season with the same arrow. Now, unfortunately, he ran through a bunch of trees, a little thicket, and he caught the arrow and snapped it. But even the 11-pointer that I shot a few years back that's on the YouTube channel, when I went up through that back ham and went through and clipped that heart, that arrow was it was intact. It was still lodged in him, and there wasn't a thing wrong with it. And I shot that with an executioner broadhead as well, and the broadhead was it was like it hadn't even been shot, with the exception of a little bit of blood on there. So
is that a 3-blade or 2-blade?
It's a 2-blade mechanical. It's a 100-grain broadhead. They sell 125s, 2 blades, and then they also have some fixed blades that are real nice. Me personally, I'm not a big fixed blade guy. I've always kind of been a mechanical guy, so I've never really personally tried the fixed blades. I've seen some good kill shots with them on hogs and on some whitetails, and they look like they put just as good a hole as the expandables. But again, like I said, it's a preference issue with everybody,
I'm shooting iron will this year, and unfortunately my elk didn't offer any shots, so I'm still looking for my first kill with them.
Right.
I'll have plenty of chances on the whitetail coming up, that's for sure. Now, do you travel out of state at all, John, hunting whitetails?
No, I do not. I pretty much stay in the state of Illinois. I do travel to southern Illinois and bow hunt a little bit down there. And then, of course, that's where I slug hunt as well, is down there.
That's a little bit different, that slug hunting stuff, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is. You can reach out there and touch them, boy, let me tell you. It's case in point. Last year, a few years back, I'd gotten a Mossberg Tactical Turkey 535 12 gauge. And my oldest daughter this past year decided she wanted to slug hunt. So she went with me. She took my typical 20 gauge that I generally slug hunt with, and threw a scope on that Tactical Turkey, put a slug choke in there, and I took it out. Opening day, we sighted it in, and out to 50 yards, I was golden. Let's see, it was Saturday morning. That following morning, we had unpronounced. We didn't even know it. Looked down the edge of the field. Here come a deer, what we thought was a doe, because I could tell the second deer was a buck. We thought it was a doe. My daughter's like, "Can I take it?" I said, "Well, of course you can take it. It's whatever you want to kill, of course." And it gets up closer. She realizes it's a buck, and it's a small little 4-pointer. And she says, "Dad, it's small. Do I have to take it? Do you want me to take it?" I said, "It's what you want to do, honey. It's, whatever." So she decides she's going to harvest it. She shoots it. It runs off. I tell her to stay watching it. Well, the other buck, it was a small 8-point, was chasing him away. My dad was down the field, so my dad watched all this unfold, told me part of the story. There was a doe down by him. This 8-pointer was chasing that small 4-pointer away. Well, I'm videoing her deer. Well, then all of a sudden, I look over and this small 8-point's just standing there looking at me. And I'm like, okay, I'm caught in the excitement. So I swing my gun around I swing this tactical turkey around and I shoot and I miss. Well, he runs out there at about 90 yards and I put the crosshairs right at the top of his back and I squeezed the trigger. I thought I missed him. 5 minutes goes by. My dad calls me. He says, well, did she get it? I said, yeah. He said, did you shoot at the one in the field? I said, yeah. They were both in the field, but which one? He said, the second one. I said, well, yeah. He said, well, it's dead. It's laying out there in the middle of the field. I watched it fall over. And like I said, with a slug gun, 90 yards is probably pretty impressive in my book. Every other deer that I've shot with a slug gun has been within probably 40 yards.
Well, good for you. Now, let's talk about processing. How do you process your meat?
95 to 96% of the meat we process ourselves. I bring it back home, skin, quarter it, and get it in a cooler and then bring it in and just whatever we decide we're going to want, burgers, steaks, roasts, that sort of thing, and just cut it up accordingly. I mean, I've been processing deer since I was probably 12, 13 years old. So I've gotten a pretty good act for it. I can do one pretty well. A decent 120-pound deer, I can do in around 2.5 hours probably from start to finish.
No, that's cutting and wrapping and labeling. And
yep.
Do you put them in a vacuum sealer or?
We take freezer paper. If we're doing loins, we'll take freezer paper, wrap it in a freezer paper, and then it goes in a nice Ziploc baggie to help with the freezer burn. And then burger, it just goes straight into a quart baggie, and they're 1 pound a piece. Seal her up and toss her down into the deep freeze there.
That's it. Now, do you make your own salami, jerky, or?
You know, I tried that at one time, and I wasn't real impressed with how it turned out. So if I have any specialty stuff done, we take it to a processor somewhere and get it done.
Yeah, because we process at the Bunkhouse Crew, Randall's and Steve and myself, and, you know, we've got the grinder, and then we got the casings and all that. But right. It does take a while, folks. But one thing that I've seen enjoy is actually the processing. We get the deer hung, they age a little bit, and they're in Wisconsin. Then we just, we start bringing them in, and we're sure as heck not watching TV anyway. For a couple hours every single night, we're processing deer and getting them into the freezer. But we do use, vacuum seals, and that's how we do it. And then my buddy Randall's has got to, he's canning the stuff now. He's canning venison, and we had some in elk camp. He brought some out for elk camp, and it was darn good.
See, that's one thing I haven't tried is canned venison.
It tasted fine. I mean, it's just like anything. You just got to learn it. And folks, if you haven't started processing your own deer, you need to do that, because one, it saves you money. In 1 or 2 years, you paid for all your equipment, period.
Right. I've gotten fortunate, like I said, I've been doing it since I was 12 or 13. And so that would make the grinder that we have for the burger, it's probably pretty close to 20 years old or better. It's seen a lot of deer meat run through it. But I was fortunate enough, growing up, that's what we lived off of, was deer meat through the winter time. I'm fortunate that, me and my dad we got into the dairy industry. So through the winter time, the ice cream business is what we've done. The ice cream business was slow through the winter time, and, my dad's overtime was cut to a minimum. And so we lived off the deer meat, and we learned it. I learned it, and I brought my wife on, and that's the other thing, getting it done in 2.5 hours. That's not just me. I got to give props to my wife and my kids. they step in and they help out and get it done. You know, I get it grinded up if it's burger, and they'll sit there and they'll get it packaged for me. You know, the loins, I'll get them cut up. They package that stuff. So, but I was real fortunate. You know, my dad decided to give it up, and he's got a lot of things going on in his life. So he doesn't process his own anymore. The only thing he processes is the back straps, and the rest of it he takes to a butcher and has it done. But so he gave me the grinder that I have now, which it's, like I said, it's seen hundreds of deer run through it. So I'm sure that in the next few years I'll be making a big purchase and buying a new grinder. But for now, what we got, it works.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show tonight. Before we go, can I take a moment and say thank you? Listen, as we started the Whitetail Rendezvous podcast journey, we had no idea what to expect. But after 4 years, we received a ton of feedback from our over 400,000 listeners and climbing to 500,000. Speaking of which, we are now closing in on over 600 featured guests. Thank you. And a quick shout out to all those who have left an iTunes review and your feedback. I get those and really appreciate it. And it's awesome to see what you have to say, and we do read every single one of them. And I just want you to know that I am incredibly grateful for your kind words regarding the show. And all of the ratings and reviews help us attract more listeners. And if you're one of those new listeners, welcome. Great to have you. By the way, if you haven't taken the time to rate and review our show and like the Hunting on Private Land strategy on how to get permission to hunt a private property, go to whitetailrendezvous.com as a special gift for just rating and reviewing our show. When you get there, look for the start button to get the details. Listen, I'll share you the top technique from some of the top hunters in the country on how do they get permission to hunt on private land. I'll share with you the exact techniques they use to get permission. As my way of saying thanks for rating and reviewing the show on iTunes. So join us next time. And remember, we're all on this journey together, learning, sharing, and becoming 365 hunters.
Well, that's good. John, we get about 10 minutes left. And hey, folks, we're talking with John Musgrave, owner and producer of Standalone Outdoors. And John, I'd just like you to share your 3 go-to techniques for archery hunting. And then if you had to pick 5 days to hunt during the year, what days they would be?
Well, my go-to techniques is pretty much, I'll just run you through what I do on a daily basis as I hunt. You know, get out of my truck, get all the gear gathered up. I get about, not even a quarter away to my stand, whichever stand side I might be doing. And I take the good old buck bomb and I'll spray the very bottom of my boots, kind of like a drag rag. And then I also have a drag rag, and I'll soak that in. I'll soak that one in doe estrus, and then the bottom of my boots is buck. And finish walking to my stand, and then I'll take that buck bomb and just hit every once in a while, just certain different areas. If I haven't already gotten them out, I'll make a mock scrape up, get that done and taken care of and sprayed. And it seems to work pretty well, and crawl up there in the tree. And if I see a good buck and he's out there in the distance, I may throw a couple of grunts at him. I do when it gets into the pre-rut and the rut, I will carry a set of rattling horns with me and do a little light rattling if I see one out there at a distance and I don't think he's coming in, which is, if he's not going to come in, you're not going to hurt anything, So, that's pretty much my tactics of what I do. Besides running the cameras, I run my trail cameras from I get them out around May and run them until the second week into deer season. After deer season ends, about 2 weeks, I'll pull them after that. And I only do that just to see if they've started dropping their horns yet, if it's time to get out and start looking for sheds. And because season here in Illinois ends generally around the 20th of January. So taking into the 2 weeks, you're looking into the end of January. And normally some bucks are starting to shed their antlers. So it gives you kind of a time frame of when you can get out there and start doing that shed hunting and that postseason scouting that everybody should be doing and starting to pattern them for the next year. But yeah, that's pretty much my go-to tactics right there.
And the best 5 days?
My best 5 days, I'm going to say from about Halloween into about the 4th or 5th of November seems to be about my best 5 days.
All right. Well, John, tell the listeners one more time how they get a hold of you.
You guys can get a hold of me through Facebook on Standalone Outdoors. Instagram, it's Standalone Outdoors. And if you want to email me, you can email at standaloneoutdoors@yahoo.com. And feel free to ask any questions, any tips that you might be willing to share, or anything that you might, if you hear something on the podcast that interests you and want me to elaborate a little more, just reach out, and I'm happy to answer any questions, give any advice that's needed.
Well, folks, this has been really good. And again, if you're not familiar with CWD and EHD, do some research because they're big topics in the hunting industry now. And it's not good for our deer herd. So you got to know what to do, how to do it, where to do it. And each state is changing regulations on using doe urine because of the chronic wasting disease. So you got to make sure, one, about scents and about baiting, because I know a lot of states have changed their baiting regs because in chronic wasting, they want to disperse deer, not have them get near each other and pass CWD along. So right. Hunting isn't just about hunting now. It's about conservation. It's about stewardship. It's about habitat management. And you got to know what's going on with the deer herd in your area and then manage your deer herd accordingly. Any last thoughts, John?
Yeah, just what you said. You got to know what's going on in your area. You go out there day after day after day and you sit up there, and you're not seeing deer and you wonder why. It very well could be the EHD or the chronic wasting or the blue tongue that's affecting your area. So the more you take an interest in the conservation, and the better off you're going to be at patterning your deer and learning what's on your property and what's not.
Well, folks, I want to thank you for that, and hope you enjoy this. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to me at whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. Don't forget, I've created Deer Hunting Institute Part 1. It's a deer hunting course, a 13-module course. And if you're interested in getting it, just send me an email at deerhuntinginstitute@gmail.com, and I'll tell you how to get your course. So with that, thank you so much for listening in to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.